Warning: This podcast may be disturbing to some listeners. Due to the graphic nature, listener discretion is advised. Welcome from wherever you are. This is the Demon Inside podcast. I'm your host, John Benham. If you would like to review another episode of the Demon Inside, you can go to Spotify, Apple Music, Google Podcasts, iHeartRadio, and any podcast platform. And please, don't forget to subscribe and rate us with 5 stars. A new episode will come out once a week.
Time and space. Vast indifference of the universe.
We will be right back after a word from our sponsors. And welcome back to the Demon Inside. Hello, my Demon Insiders, and welcome back to the Demon Inside. I'm your host, John Benham, and today I am dedicating this episode to the women and men that work at the Mayo Hospital in Rochester, Minnesota. So Shannon, as you guys know, I've mentioned her before, she is a Demon Insider. And she says that her and her coworkers all listen to this show during the breaks. So she sent me a email the other day, and I'm going to read it out loud to you. She says, "We just listened to Yuri, which is the podcast that I did a few episodes ago. It says, I work on the critical care floor at the Mayo. Most of us on my floor believe evil is invited. We feel the crystals let the evil into this world. We see a lot of spiritual wonders on a daily basis here at work." Wow. Okay. Sorry. This is a hospital and they see things. They see spiritual wonders at work all the time. For those of you that don't believe in spirituality or spiritual beings or entities, if you've never worked at a hospital, you'll never know. I've personally worked at a hospital where I was working in the basement, and also in the basement was the morgue. And I would hear voices sometimes. I would see things, people walking by. It's a very big thing. So anyway, to continue, I'm sorry. I personally do not care for crystals, she says. You never truly know where or who has had them in their possession. I see family members bringing them to their loved ones here. At times, it goes bad. She says, my floor sends love and good wishes your way. We enjoy hearing you each week and debating on each episode. We always look forward to your next podcast. Some episodes scares us. With the lights down on the unit, it makes your mind play tricks on you. LOL. Thank you, Shannon. You and all your coworkers at the Mayo Hospital in Rochester, Minnesota, I really do appreciate this. You guys are amazing at what you do. You're amazing people, and the work that you do is just amazing. I don't know what other words to say. But also, you guys know, flattery gets you everywhere on this show. So this is dedicated to you guys. And the next 2 episodes are going to be about nurses that kill. So today's episode is The Demon Inside, Elizabeth Tracy May Beth Wettlaufer. Now, she was born Parker, June 10, 1967, and she is a registered nurse and one of Canada's worst serial killers. Her life started, she was born in Zora Township, which is a rural community near Woodstock, Ontario, which is in Canada. She grew up in a Baptist household where her father and mother were very religious. And she was also, she figured out in life early that she was a lesbian, that she was gay. And being part of that religious culture, or the Baptist church, she felt like it was a sin and she couldn't do that. So she kept it hidden. And this causes a lot of problems with people. We've seen it with John Wayne Gacy, and we've seen it with Jeffrey Dahmer, where they don't want people to know that they're gay. And so anyway, she goes to college, and she goes to the London Baptist Bible College. While she's there, she meets a girl she actually likes. They go to church together. Somehow the dad gets wind of this, and he has her come back home. So when she goes home, they do this thing where they try to get her back into the religion because she's sinning as a lesbian. After a few months, she goes back to college, but this time her father actually goes with her, signs up for classes, and he's there. But she graduates, and she goes to nursing school, and she graduates from nursing school. She becomes a full-fledged nurse. So in 2007, she was hired onto the staff at Crescent Care. Now, Crescent Care is a long-term care home in Woodstock, and it's for elderly people. And she was initially regarded by coworkers as caring and professional. And throughout her tenure there, Wettlaufer struggled with substance abuse and alcoholism. She faced accusations of showing up to work drunk, and at one point was found passed out in the facility's basement during the night shift. Now, I feel that because she refused to admit that she was gay, she was already having problems. In October of 1997, she married Daniel Wettlaufer. He was a long-haul truck driver that she met at church. Getting married was pretty much covering up that she was a lesbian. But in 2007, they ended up getting a separation, and in 2008, they got a divorce. While this was happening, Wettlaufer, or Elizabeth, said that she felt this strange urge in her, which she calls the red surge. And she heard a voice deep inside of her where the surge started that told her, "Don't worry, I have plans for you." That's what this voice told her. So she goes on and she starts working at this facility at Crescent Care. And of course, she starts drinking to solve her problems. She starts taking drugs. She actually starts giving the patients placebos while she's stealing their medications. But nobody knows this because she is actually in charge of the medications. She is actually the only registered nurse there. So everybody looks up to her to do what's right, and she's pretty much like a supervisor. So one day, there's a gentleman that goes in, and he's a little bit rude, and she gets kind of angry with him. Well, because of this anger, she decides that she's going to kill him. She goes, she gets insulin in a needle, She sticks it in his arm. She tells him it's a vitamin. And she injects him. Now, before this happened, she had injected 2 other patients, but just to see how much she needed to kill somebody. She liked the fact that she put insulin in these 2 sisters before, and she watched each one as they had these effects of the insulin going through their body. And if you don't know about insulin, it's for diabetics and it makes the sugar levels go down. But if you're normal sugar levels, it's going to make it go lower, where you're going to end up either in a coma or you're going to die. And so this guy, this Marine, who she didn't like, she says she felt that red surge come up and she felt laughter. And she injected him and this relief came over her and she watched him and he died after about 5 hours. That's a long time to die. That's a long time to die. So her killing spree started from this point on. Through her years at Crescent Care, she killed 8 people and she injured 6. So it was a total of 14 victims. Now, here's the thing. Nobody knew about it. She was actually fighting herself because she believed at first that red surge, that voice she heard, was God telling her to do this.
That's where things get a little crazy.
Okay.
This is part that I haven't told the doctors. Because it seems so stupid now. When my ex and I broke up in 2007, I was already taking the medication for my borderline personality disorder. And I was so angry. And it was like a voice said inside me, I'll use you, don't worry about it. And the different times that I have caused people's deaths or caused them discomfort through the insulin, I believe it was the influence of that voice or whatever it was. It wasn't a voice in my head, it was a voice in here. And when I would do it, afterwards I would hear like a laughter in my chest.
Now, what you just heard was Elizabeth Wettlaufer's interrogation, and it's on YouTube, and I suggest you listen to it. It's probably like almost 3 hours long, but she talks more and more about this feeling. With every kill that she did, she said this red surge came up from her gut and all the way up to her heart, and that she could hear the laughter. But she assumed it was God. Now for you, I think she knew it was something else. Because if it was from God and she really truly believed that, she wouldn't have tried to hide it. When these people that she would inject were dying, she would sit and watch. She even said that this red surge that she had made her feel orgasmic. It made her feel God was working through her. But I think she was feeling like she was God herself, because she had the power over life and death. After she killed, she got fired. They didn't catch her. They actually fired her from Crescent Care because she killed 7 people there. And she got fired from there because she mixed up medications. And also because of her alcoholism and her drug abuse.
We will be right back after a word from our sponsors.
Hey guys, it's time for the Uber shout out of the week. And this week, I have a very special person. Oh my God. Okay, first I'm going to say this little girl, she was 19. And to me, anybody under the age of 30 is a little girl. But she is a woman, 19 years old. I hope I don't offend anybody. But we started talking because I had picked her up from her boyfriend's house, and it was like a 30-minute trip to her house. And we talked the whole way. This little girl, or this woman, freaking the most beautiful woman ever inside. I mean, she was just awesome. We were talking about that she has 5 brothers that are older. And I started talking about how her boyfriend must be a very brave guy to even attempt to date her. And, we started talking about that, and we started talking about, life and things like that. And so we got to the point where, oh my God, we fist bumped twice because, we started talking about like the show, and I was telling her what was going on, and I asked her if she wanted, because she's not really a true crime fan. But I wanted to throw her a shout out anyway to Savannah because she was such a cool person. I mean, this little girl, she's been working since the age of 15. She's driving. She was involved in an accident. She's trying to drive again. She's, all these things have happened to her, but she's got such a great outlook on life. And I wish other people would have that. And it was just a joy to have her in my car and to talk to her. And so when I got to to her destination, I told her, I'm going to throw you out a shout out. You don't have to listen to the show. It's halfway. And I told her, I explained everything. And she said, cool. And I said, do you want me to mention your boyfriend? And she's like, nah, it's okay. And so that was one of the fist bumps. And the second one was, I said, well, look, I said, I have so many names from last week. I said, do you want me to wait to do yours? And she was like, yes, I want the shout out all to myself. Oh my God, it was the best. I really wish, and I didn't think about it until later, I wish I would have recorded her talking, saying this is her Uber shout out, and that would have been amazing. But Savannah, thank you for the trip. I mean, 30 minutes went by really quick with you. It was awesome. You're such a great person. If I was your dad, and I know your dad is very super proud of you, and I'm not going to say any more than that about your dad, but he will always, always be proud of you. Because I know if you were my daughter, I would definitely be so proud of you. So never doubt that. But Savannah, this is your shout out. All right, guys, let's get back to the show.
And welcome back to The Demon Inside.
After the Carissa care, she went somewhere else. And there she also did, which was like a home care facility. And there she did the same thing. But she was trying to stop. So she took 2 years where she goes to the church and prays to God. Because she understands at this point that it wasn't God who was telling her to kill. She believes it was something else. She was thinking maybe it was the devil. Here, take a listen to this.
Because part of me had started to believe that it was the devil. And part of me thought it might be God as a purpose through my life. And I know the doctor asked me those questions, but I didn't answer them because I was so ashamed. But I didn't want this to keep going on. So I quit both jobs. Looked into where I could get help. Dr. Fernando is my psychiatrist, and he's not a very nice man. So I went on an online support group and was talking to people on there, and they were saying, get some help. So then I started researching some psych boards and stuff, and I saw CAMH, and they are the only mental health facility in Ontario that has an emergency department.
Okay.
So I made a decision, and I went there one Friday morning. I took the train, and off I went. And before I went, I told I told 3 people what was going on. My friend from AA,
Okay.
and my friend, I told them what was going on. They said, yes, go and get help. And my friend drove me to the train station.
And when you say you told them what was going on, did you get into
I
details of why you were
told
going
them
to
that-
seek help, or?
I told them that I had been killing people using an insulin drug. And they all said, yes, you better go get help. So off I went.
Okay.
She went to a priest, and this was really crazy because she knew something was wrong and she was trying to fight it and she couldn't fight it. But she goes to a priest or a pastor. She doesn't go to a priest, she goes to a pastor. She talks to the pastor and his wife and she tells them that she's killed people. Well, they don't believe her, but they pray over her and they tell her just to go on her way and don't do it again. Then she goes to a lawyer and tells this lawyer that she's killed people. Well, the lawyer doesn't believe her either. And so nothing is done. Several times she tells people what she's been doing and nobody believes her. I mean, for me, if somebody told me that they've killed somebody, that's red flags all over the place. But since there was no investigations, there was no evidence of anything, she did this very well. There was times that she could have gotten caught where the person didn't die while she was on shift. And it wasn't one of those where she would kill them and try to save them. She really wanted them to die, and sometimes they wouldn't die on her shift. So she was worried that they would catch her, and they never did. They never did investigations. They never did anything. The families thought that these people died natural causes, and she would even support the families. Like, she would go and hug them and talk to them. And with one of the victims, she actually sat there and watched them die. And then she went to the victim's family and said, "Oh, this was his last words, and he was thinking of you." And they were like so grateful. They thought she was the best thing ever. And she was the one that was killing. So later on, she gets to this place where she wants to stop, but she doesn't know how. And, you know, it's really weird. Like I said earlier, she had gone to church for 2 years. She had jumped into the whole church scene and it stopped her. But she was still feeling that urge, but she filled it with prayer and she filled it with the religion. And for 2 years, she hadn't done it. Serial killers just don't stop. She did for 2 years. Her last victim was at another place that she got hired onto, and she killed him. Now, after that, she told the guy, the head of the facility, that she was going to quit because she couldn't do it because of drugs and alcohol. They had also called her from another facility where if she would have taken that job, she would have been taking care of kids that were diabetics. And she felt like if she was there, she wouldn't be able to control her urge and she would kill kids. And that's where she refused. She drew the line and she said, "I'm not going to kill children." So she actually goes to rehab. While in rehab, she talks to a counselor. She tells the counselor about these killings. She even writes down on a piece of paper all the victims and all the potential victims that she had. It wasn't until that time that nobody believed her. Everybody thought she was a pathological liar. So after that happened, that lady, the counselor, called the police, and they took it to the police, and the police started doing an investigation. Well, the investigation really had no evidence of nothing. They actually went to the hospital. The hospital didn't have anything. They went to all the places that she worked. Nobody had anything. Nobody knew anything. So they went and picked her up from the facility. And they said, look, we're going to interrogate you. We're going to talk to you. And she said, that's fine. She goes, I'm ready to talk. I'm ready to tell you everything that's happened. And that's why this interrogation happened, where she starts talking about the red surge that came up from inside of her that was laughing. What is that red surge? Was it her anxiety? Was it her mentality? Now, she did have borderline personality disorder. So that's very important because that lies on the medical side. But borderline personality disorder, they don't go around killing people. They actually try to kill or hurt themselves. Once the police had her in the interrogation and they started talking to her, they realized that she was legit. And like I said, if you listen to the interrogation, you'll hear her confession of every single killing. She remembers all of it, and almost to the point where she remembers how much she injected into them. It's very strange to me that a serial killer would not only just confess to everything, but also tell everybody how she did it and why she did it. The thing that gets me is during the interrogations, and I have this problem a lot because the cops don't want to hear about demons or bad spirits. They don't want to hear about evil because the defense attorney could use that in court and they could plead insanity. So she gets life in prison after her confessions and after her trial. The families are ecstatic. They're happy as hell. But then there's something that happens. Take a listen.
Convicted serial killer Elizabeth Wettlaufer has been transferred from a prison to a hospital in Quebec. Some of her victims' families notified earlier this year about the move, but not told exactly where she'd gone. This week, they've been told she's at a secure psychiatric facility in Montreal. CTV's Nicole Lampa spoke with the family about who found out about the location just yesterday.
That's right, Nancy. Daniel Silcox's father, James, was Wettlaufer's first of 8 murder victims. Silcox became upset when Corrections Canada wouldn't tell him exactly where Wettlaufer was moved to, so he decided to take action on his own.
Former nurse Elizabeth Wettlaufer admitted to killing 8 seniors under her care. She was convicted last year and sentenced to life in prison. Wettlaufer was placed at Grand Valley Institution for Women in Kitchener. Wettlaufer's first victim was James Silcox. Earlier this year, his son was told Wettlaufer was being moved to Quebec for medical reasons.
I started getting very curious as to why she was gone for so long for medical purposes. I contacted Victim Services.
Silcox says last week he was told by Corrections Canada they couldn't disclose Wettlaufer's exact location.
There are a lot of families involved, and they're not telling us where she is. This was totally inappropriate, was not fair, was not right.
Silcox went to the media with his concerns. Wednesday morning, Silcox says Corrections Canada called him, letting him know Wettlaufer is at Institut Philippe Pinel in Montreal. The secured psychiatric hospital runs under a model with no armed guards and no traditional prison guards. But now he's worried Wettlaufer may have access to internet, music, and sports.
Bars would be a nice touch. She does not have the sense that she is incarcerated. That's my fear right now. If she were to say, gee, it's lovely in here, I would not be happy.
Silcox says he's conflicted, acknowledging Wettlaufer is mentally unwell but concerned, feeling like she's being groomed for a possible early release. Wettlaufer was sentenced in June of 2017 to life in prison with no chance of parole for 25 years. We'll have more reaction on this story tonight at 6. Nancy.
Nicole Lampa in the newsroom.
She is in a state hospital now with the potential of actually getting out one day. The Canadian serial killer, who was one of the worst, could actually get out free one day. Here's the thing. With the job that they have, Shannon at the Mayo Clinic, all the nurses, all the doctors, anybody that works at these jobs, it's high stress.
What do you think the reason is that you slipped into the addiction back then? What do you think? Is it just the stresses of the job that you were facing? Or dealing with
just
your personal life as well? And
just always feeling like I had to be the best possible person, and very, very stressful job, giving medications to 32 people, making sure treatments were done on 32 people, charting for 32 people, supervising 4 PSWs who sometimes didn't always get along, and sometimes didn't always get along with me. It's a hard job. Any nurse will tell you it's a hard job.
I believe it 100%.
And then they would add different things like, oh, you have to do this and that to say who's here, and counting the medications at the end of the shift, and it was a hard job. And I always was putting this pressure on myself to be a really good nurse and to do everything perfectly. Mm-hmm. And every once in a while, when I could get a hold of a hydromark or two and take it, then that pressure was gone.
Right.
You have somebody's life in your hands. You see life and death all the time. People pray to God for a miracle, but sometimes that miracle doesn't happen because it's meant to be death. And I hate to say that, but that's the way life is. Eventually, unfortunately, we all have to die at some time. Some earlier than others. People say, why does God allow that? Well, God doesn't allow that. God doesn't allow anything. God doesn't let anything happen either. God doesn't do anything. The only reason I say that is because God has given us all the things we need in people like Shannon and all the people at the Mayo Clinic and all the people at all the hospitals around the world, and EMTs and firemen and policemen. We have resources that God has given us, and it's up to us to use them to help one another. And that's all it comes down to, is helping one another. And when you hurt someone like Elizabeth, and she was hurt because she couldn't be who she wanted to be, which was herself, she allowed this thing to come in, this red surge, and she allowed it to take over and take control. And because of that, families were changed. People died. My point is, if you're in the hospital, God forbid, be nice to the people that are treating you. You know, it's kind of like, and I hate to say it this way, but it's like going to a restaurant. Don't piss off the chef, because they'll spit in your food. You don't piss off nurses or doctors that are trying to help you. They know exactly what they're doing, and they know that you need help, and that's what they're there for. So Shannon and all you at the Mayo Clinic, like I said, you're doing a great job. And I'm sure you've seen a lot of spiritual things there, some good, some bad. Don't let the stress get to you, because that's what demons want. They want you to feel sad. They want you to feel bad. They want you to give in to what you can't control. Thanks for listening, guys. I'll talk to y'all next week.
Don't forget to subscribe to the Demon Inside podcast on any podcast platform. A new episode of the Demon Inside will be released every week. Let us know what you think of the episode on all our social media platforms. If you have any questions or comments, go to the Demon Inside podcast at gmail.com or click on the link down below. We would love to hear from you. And to become a Demon Insider, go to our website, thedemoninsidepodcast.com. We thank you for listening and hope you will join us next week for a new Demon Inside podcast. If you enjoyed this episode, please tell your friends. I am John Venom, and I'll see you next time. If I don't get possessed. The Demon Inside was written and created by James Porter. It is a production of Venomous Entertainment. Background music is by Lucas King. And the title song, Demon Inside, was produced by Rice Pulver, composer lyricist Peter Shelley, and performed by Conjure One.